Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another Arena Cube Draft. Without further ado, let's just get into it. So we've got a super sweet pack one, pick one as we always do in the Arena Cube. There's not a really obvious way to just force mono red here. I mean, we can take Lightning Strike, which is a very flexible card, fits into literally any red deck, red black, red green, red blue, mono red, red white, all going to have a great time with this card. Could pick that here, and what I generally like to do is play a lot of mono red and cube, but I'm going to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. I'm not going to just force mono red and take Lightning Strike immediately as much as I want to. If I didn't care at all that this was being recorded, I would probably just take Lightning Strike and try to be in red again. I just love that archetype, but we did that literally one draft ago, so let's go for something a little different here. I do like Massacre Worm a lot as kind of a big finisher in the black decks. Makes a bunch of your opponent's creatures lose -2/-2, so a lot of them will probably die, and as they die, you're draining your opponent for 2 life, which can definitely kill them. Kaya is really nice in the mid-range decks. Planeswalker that hits the board, exiles any non-land permanent, and then sticks around to tick up over time. Wrinkle's a very flexible black card too, though, and it's a little cheaper, but I think I'm just going to take a pack one, pick one Massacre Worm, see if we can go for some kind of black deck with this as a very nice card at the top end. Pack 1, pick 2, we now have a Yawgmoth Thran Physician, a very powerful sacrifice outlet for a Rakdos or Orzhov sacrifice deck, so a red-black or red-white sac deck. Like this a lot. It's a way to sacrifice creatures for really good value without even spending any mana on that sacrifice. Putting a -1/-1 counter on creature and drawing a card. Yawgmoth is just so sweet for the sacrifice decks. I'm going to take it here and see if we can push into that kind of archetype. Should be very good. Mind Stone is probably the safest, quote-unquote, best pick here, because it goes into any mid-range deck easily. Yawgmoth is the coolest and the most fun. Alright. Mono black, like sacrifice control here, taking a Languish. Languish just seems like a very good pickup, very good against the aggro decks. Mono red, mono white, Boros, Rakdos, all that. Kolaghan's Command is also just a really sweet card in general. It's incredible. Cheap interaction, it's always a 2-for-1. Sometimes you kill a nice cheap creature and blow up their good artifact. Sometimes you kill a cheap creature, make them discard a card. Any combination of these effects is just always phenomenal. And if we're going to be a sacrifice deck, it's 50-50 between if we're going to be Rakdos sacrifice or Orzhov sacrifice. And Kolaghan's Command definitely fits really well into any red-black deck, so Kolaghan's Command versus Languish is actually kind of a difficult pick, but I think I'm going to get controlling here and take the big board wipe, go for the Languish. But both of those are just great, great, great cards. Pick 4 now. We have a Solemn Simulacrum, fine little mid-range card for any deck. Fixes your mana, draws you a card when it dies. Deadly Dispute's fine for a sacrifice deck, but Lolth is a pretty big, pretty powerful planeswalker for any black deck. I think I'll just go with that, stick to what we're doing here. Red and 7, another powerful mid-rangey planeswalker. We'll go for the on-color one for now. Well, Bloodchief's Thirst, very efficient interaction. 1 mana to destroy a creature with mana value 2 or less. 4 mana to destroy any creature planeswalker. We'll definitely take that here for mono black. Ornithopter of Paradise is fine. I actually think it's a little bit worse than the cards like Mind Stone, though, since it is a mana rock that can get killed by removal spells. But it is fine. Alright, so we're currently mono black. This pack we are going to have to start taking cards in another color. Steel Seraph would be a card that is going to push us into a color that works the best with our Yawgmoth, but our Yawgmoth is our only really restrictive card that we kind of have to build around. Everything else is just powerful in a slower, grindier kind of deck, and there's some cards here that are powerful in grindier decks. Ramp cards like Cultivate and Incubation Druid, and a very huge value engine, Tireless Tracker, giving us a clue token whenever land enters battlefield under our control. So kind of want to take one of these really nice green cards, because we're seeing a lot of them here. Maybe a green-black kind of grinded out deck. I'm going to go for Tireless Tracker, grind out just straight up value, rather than trying to ramp into really big plays. Let's just grind out card advantage through the long game. Pelt Collector's fine here, better the more aggressive you are. OV is pretty bad, because these abilities are just not what you want to do with your mana unless you have literally nothing else to do with your mana. which doesn't really do anything until you're completely out of cards. Jugen defends the Temple. Pretty good ramp card here. So it's Jugen or Pelt Collector. I feel like the Temple probably makes a little more sense than Pelt Collector for how our deck is looking right now. Take a green-black dual land here, or a Farewell for a potential black-white control deck. This might be the wrong pick, but I don't really feel married to green yet, so I'm going to take Farewell, and now if I do get pushed into black-white, I've got 2 board wipes. I have a Languish and a Farewell, and if you count Massacre Worm, I have 3, so Farewell is just a really good board wipe. The World Spell's a really, really bad card, in my opinion. 7 mana to spend the next 2 turns just drawing a card. Not even like playing something for free. Then 3 turns after you played this, or I guess 2 turns after you play this, you get to then play those cards for free. I just really don't like that card. I'm going to take Farewell there. Alright. Very, very solid control card in white. Birth of Melodis, a very good cheap play for the white controlling decks. It gets you your land to make sure you hit higher mana cost, gets you a wall to stop early aggro, and gets you some life. Apologies that the card is cut off on the left-hand side. That is just a visual bug on Arena right now. Nothing I can do on my end to fix that. I do mention that pretty much every time because I've gotten a lot of comments about cards getting cut off on the left-hand side of the screen. That's just how Arena looks right now during the draft. I guess I could take an Ulamog for the top end of my like black-white control deck. Pretty much never going to get to resolve it, but maybe I take a time wipe. It's possible I can splash that in off of 1 blue source. Vanishing Slash seems like a solid option for black-white control. None of these cards are good for us, but Glacial Fortress could come in handy to splash in blue. I'll just speculate on a dual land there. Definitely take this dual land. And get a last pick Ovia. Pack 2. Pick 1. We've got some nasty stuff. First and foremost, a Grey Merchant of Asphodel with a Massacre Worm in the deck. Gonna be a really fun time, and if we manage to be mono black, it can be a really big finisher. That being said, the only decks that are really going to want this are very heavy black decks or mono black decks, and I think pretty much anybody else in a black deck in the draft pot is probably taking Phyrexian Fleshgorger first. So I don't think anybody else is going to be as heavy into black as we potentially are. So I kind of want to let this just go by, and we can probably wheel the Grey Merchant. And the 2 cards that I'm going to choose between here, or 3 I should say, are the Phyrexian Fleshgorger, 3 mana, 3/3 menace, lifelink. Really good early game, and it gives us the optional prototype late game Leyline Binding for pretty efficient removal, or Elesh Norn as just a really hard to beat card, kind of a permanent Massacre Worm effect. I'm personally going to take Elesh Norn here. I just think it's super hard to lose a game if you have this on board. Does require work to make it to that 7 mana, but our deck is already looking like the kind of deck that's going to try to grind out the game to get to that 7 mana. So we take Elesh Norn here. And if we're lucky, we can wheel a Grey Merchant of Asphodel. If we don't wheel that, maybe a Leyline Binding or a prototype. Multiple options that would fit well in here. Now we pretty much have one good option. We have the Gifted Aetherborn. This will be especially good if we wheel the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. But 2 mana, 2/3 Death Touch lifelink, really good deal. The only problem is the restrictive mana cost, making it so it doesn't always come down on turn 2. You gotta wait till turn 3 or 4 to get all your swamps for it. Still quite good. Cityscape Leveler is a very fun, powerful finisher, but I've already got those. I have an Elesh Norn, a Massacre Worm, and a Farewell. All 3 of these can very much win a game. And they're pretty expensive. Alright, another board wipe. Let's go. Day of Judgment, destroy all creatures. Little bit less replaceable than removal spells, especially 4 mana removal spells like Hagra Mauling. There might be some competition if there was a 2 mana removal spell here, like a Go for the Throat, but a 4 mana removal spell versus a 4 mana board wipe, we're taking the board wipe every time for our control deck. Cold Steel Heart actually does seem quite good for this deck. We have a lot of 6s and 7s now. Well, a few 6s and 7s to ramp into, and not a lot of stuff to do at 2 mana or 3 mana or anything like that. I'm going to go for Cold Steel Heart. We didn't really end up being a good like Yawgmoth sack deck for this Brushstroke, and I have 3 board wipes in here between Day of Judgment, Languish, and Farewell, so I don't think, even if I took like every good Aristocrats card, I don't think it would end up being a very good Sacrifice deck, because We just have so many ways that are going to blow up our whole board that we don't actually want to use. So I think I need to lean more towards the control and take the good ramp card like Cold Steel Heart. Now we don't have much. We have Fabled Passage that could be a black or white source. Tenacious Underdog we can trade off early and then have the ability to bring back later, which is fine. Sap Vitality, which can be a cheap removal spell, but it does require double black. Also fine. I think it's Passage, Vitality, or Underdog. Circuit Mender also okay, but I think these three are better than that. I'm going to go for the Vitality. Another cheap little single target removal spell. Nothing great for control here. I guess we just take the best card on color, which is Evolved Sleeper. Not too much to say about that pick. Now we've got a white-black duel, which we're pretty lacking on, and if I do end up playing white and black, our mana costs are going to be very difficult. So I think I'm supposed to take this over Professor Onyx, which is kind of a bummer because she's a very cool, powerful card. But if I do end up being white-black and not just mono-black, like, I have 2 double black cards that are 2 mana and double black. I have a double white card for 2 mana. I have a triple black card at 6 mana, a bunch more double white cards. Yeah, we've got some really restricted mana costs. They're going to be hard to get to without good dual lands like that. Lonely End is easily the pick. Great, cheap removal. -3/-3 to a creature or planeswalker, basically. You get to gain a couple life if you were on the draw this game. Help you stay in the game. We wield the Grey Merchant of Asphaldo and the Leyline Binding. Actually taking some more nice mono-black cards like Sap Vitality here. I'm actually going to push towards black here with the Grey Merchant over the Binding. Don't think we're going to be quite mono-black, but we're going to get it to where the white is sort of like a splash here, where white is just like Birth of Melodis to help get the second planes for the rest of the white cards, and then just, you know, board wipe, partial board wipe with Elesh Norn. But definitely primarily in black here. This brushstroke is actually probably fine in here, even if I'm not like a dedicated sacrifice deck. It's good devotion for our Grey Merchant. Final pack, pack 3, pick 1. What have we here? Pretty much nothing for mono black. At the same time, pretty much nothing for black-white control. I guess we just take a black-white dual land, because we definitely need more of those. Bastion of Remembrance would be okay here, but it probably wheels, since the Sanguine brushstroke went so late. So we take the Triumph first, because it's more likely to get scooped up, and then when this pack comes back around, we take Bastion of Remembrance. Those are kind of the only 2 cards we want out of this pack for this deck. Here we have Elas Ilkor for like the sacrifice synergies. We have Phyrexian Arena, which can be deadly in this format. It's so aggressive that the life loss from this is actually pretty scary. But it would be the best card for the mono black deck. I'm probably going to take it anyway. Nothing else here is like really going to be that exciting. Absolutely nothing for us out of this pack. I guess it's a lay down arms, but we won't have enough planes to use it well. Definitely don't have enough non-basic lands for Field of the Dead, though. I've got a bunch of random blue lands to play another board wipe with this time wipe if I really need it. But that's not enough for Field of the Dead. I need 7 lands with different names on the board. I have 5 dual lands, so if I'm running every non-basic and then just plains and swamps, I'll literally have 7 different names of lands in the entire deck. I guess 8 if you count Field, so... Neither of these cards likely to get played. Well, in for a penny, in for a pound. I already feel like I'm splashing in white Wrath effects, so let's just get another one. Just always be wiping the board. Settle the wreckage now. A one-sided board wipe, only exiling all attacking creatures. So you use it when your opponent attacks you with everybody, and their board is gone, while yours sticks around. Pack's pretty bad for us. There's some really powerful cards in here like Coma and Maul of the Skyclaves, but neither really do anything in our deck. Same with Rabble Rousing. Just take a Maul of the Skyclaves. Gix's command is pretty powerful, so we'll roll with that here. a miniature Wrath effect. It doesn't wipe the entire board, it only wipes the small stuff and the biggest thing that your opponent has, but still quite useful. Definitely take it here. Bolas's Citadel, that's a lot of fun for a mono black deck, and we're as close as we can get here. We're not an aggro deck for Vampire or Aspirant, so it's between this and an Amiria's Call. We'll take Bolas's Citadel, let's go. Nothing for us here. I don't want to play against the Phoenix of Ash, though. That is for dang sure. Don't want to board wipe my mono red opponent and then have them just escape this from the grave and kill me anyway. Had enough dirtily picks here that I don't think I'm really going to have a deck building for this deck either. I think I'm just going to end up with exactly 23 non-land cards at the end of the draft. I've got 5 non-basics in here, so there's currently 22 non-land cards in this deck. Do I want a Chromatic Lantern? How's the curve look? I actually do, I think. Want a Chromatic Lantern here. I'll get up to these high mana costs. I could take the Wastes for the time wipe, but already have 3 blue duels and now a Chromatic Lantern. Could take the Elas. Don't think I'm really high enough on creatures that does much. Yeah, I have like 7. Ice Manipulator is so slow, but so is Deck of Many Things. I don't think I'm playing any of these. I'm just going to put an Elas in the sideboard. A bunch of nonsense. If this is all nonsense for the rest of the draft, then I think we'll do it. Inquisition's fine. I don't really like main decking it. It's really good in your opening hand and just really bad if you draw it anytime later. A bit too coin flippy for my tastes. Hey, we got the Amiria's Call. Actually, probably sweet. There are definitely some cards in here that don't do much, so I probably am supposed to play Inquisition and lay down arms. Maybe Elas even. So this would be 44 cards. I don't think I'm playing Palladium Mirror, but I suppose it's an option. Don't think I'm heavy wide enough to want Vanishing Slash. So we're going to cut at least 5 cards out of this deck, probably just 5. We can probably play 17 lands plus Amiria's Call to make it basically 18 lands. Help get to these really high mana costs. I also have 2 mana rocks in here, which is helpful. So 17 lands seems reasonable. I think we're cutting 5 non-land cards. I want to focus on primarily white cards here. Make our Grey Merchant of Asphodel as good as possible. So Lay Down Arms gets a lot weaker in a 2-color deck, especially when white is your secondary color. But that's kind of it for bad white cards. For black cards, we have Inquisition's a little iffy. Citadel's like super fun, but I don't think it's actually very good. Because on average, by the time we make it to 6 mana, we've probably taken a good chunk of damage against most mid-range decks and definitely aggro decks, so it's just really hard to cast stuff with this, and we're not going to have that many permanents on board to use the alternate effect. It's just a really fun card with Grey Merchant of Asphodel. That's why I want to play it here. You play the Grey Merchant off the top and gain a bunch of life when you play it, so you can play more cards paying life, so I actually think Citadel's very good here. Probably have enough board wipes that the blue splash is just redundant. I still have Farewell, Gix's Command, Day of Judgment, Settle the Wreckage, Languish. That is 5 potential full-on board wipes, and then 2 kind of narrow ones, Alish Norn Massacre Worm. Yeah, I mean, I probably am not playing Time Wipe. Obosh is just a big dork to hit my opponent with. That doesn't do a lot for a control deck. Yawgmoth, we just don't have creatures to sacrifice, so that doesn't do a lot. Evolved Sleeper is kind of a card that just has to be dealt with, otherwise it turns into a card draw engine. Aetherborn trades and gains life. Elastil Core trades and gains life. Mirror ramps this up. I am pretty okay just going like cut Obosh, cut Yawgmoth, cut Citadel, Time Wipe, Lay Down Arms, and I guess we're playing Inquisition here. And then this will be the black-white control deck. Just getting rid of the blue lands, of course. Alright, here's a look at the final deck for today. This is going to be a black-white control deck, very much full of board wipes. We've got Farewell, Gix's Command, Day of Judgment, Settle the Wreckage, and Languish to clear out the board against all of these aggro-focused, creature-focused decks. So the plan against those decks is to just wipe the board and then drop some big Haymaker-style plays. We can use a Planeswalker like Lolth. We can use a big old Massacre Worm or Elesh Norn to try to help control the board state, start attacking with a really big creature. And then, of course, we've got some decent ways to try to stay ahead in a value like Phyrexian Arena as a card draw engine here. So, like any other control deck, full of board wipes, full of some targeted removal as well, Lonely End, Sap Vitality, Bloodchief's Thirst, etc. And we have a few early game creatures that are just good at trading off some death touchers like Elas Ilkor, Gifted Aetherborn, and another card draw engine, the Evolved Sleeper, to go alongside the Phyrexian Arena. So, pretty simple deck today as usual. Black-white control stuff, trying to just grind out the game, get a nice 2, 3, 4 for 1 with a big board wipe, and just take things from there. So we'll see how it plays out as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are in round 1 of the gameplay with our black-white control deck. It's a little awkward, but I'm going to keep it. It's very interactive, but I assume pretty much any hand we get is going to be like this. Some cheap removal spells or a board wipe or something. We kind of just have to react to what our opponent's doing, just with the way our deck is built in general. Not really doing much by ourselves. Drawing the double black card with the double white hand is a little awkward here. We can hit a swamp quickly, that should be pretty good, but for now... Yep, that's going to be sketchy for us. Draw our third plains before our first swamp here. Let's just get the Palladium Mirror down. The reality chip is not a problem until they can reconfigure it onto a creature. Until then, they just get to look at the top card of their library for fun. Mecha Godzilla is immediately a problem, especially if it gets a +1/+1 counter or hexproof. It gets neither of those, so we can Lonely End that. Although... then I don't get to play Phyrexian Arena. Probably worth it to Lonely End that. I could also Lonely End it and Bloodchief's Thirst the reality chip. I feel like I'm gonna have to kill this reality chip at some point either way. Because if this thing is still around by the time they get another creature, it's just... like, if it's like sitting around late game as the only thing left, it's gonna be really bad for me. I do have 5 board wipes in the deck though, so this might just die like incidentally while I'm killing other stuff, so... actually, who knows? I might keep the Thirst for now. Still plan to kill our other creatures first, let the reality chip stick around, and hopefully it just blows up in the middle of a board wipe that's focused on other threats. Okay, well, it's a 2/6 jellyfish now, so... well, but there's a Farewell. I lose my Palladium Mirror if I do that. It's probably worth it, especially if I let them expand the board state. Probably, it's going to be painful, but I think I Phyrexian Arena. Play a land, pass. Hoping for a land in the top 2, that way I can chump block and still Farewell next turn. With no other information, I don't think I chump block here, but if they play like a big creature, give it +2/+2 haste, I think I do. Yeah, I'm going to take 6 here if I don't chump. I just need a land in the top 2. I'm currently at a 41% chance of drawing a land. Well, they're just not attacking. Okay, well that makes the choice really easy. Here we go. So now I'm going to exile all... good Elesh Norn, and I kill the Pyromancer for free, but... everything else is 0 power, so Helene and Elena don't even trigger. It's kind of tempting, but then as soon as they play like something that's an actual problem, I'm going to have to Farewell. Like, I could play Elesh Norn, everything on their board is currently shut down, they play another problem, I Thirst it, but then they play another one, I Farewell eventually. I feel like I'm on the Farewell here. I don't actually have the mana to Farewell and Chromatic Lantern, which is a little sad. Oh, I do. I actually do. I have exactly enough. Right, because I do this and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, I have exactly enough. Just make sure I hit only creatures and graveyards. Then we pass turn. Their opponent's stuck on 4 mana still? I believe so. Now Phyrexian Arena probably just takes over the game here, since we're not under any life total pressure. They're going to cycle a Shark Typhoon looking for a land. They do hit it, Woodland Cemetery. There's a Day of Judgment for another Wrath for us, but let's just get an Elesh Norn out here, kill the Shark, pass the turn. Everything they have with 2 toughness or less is just going to die immediately. So they have to hit creatures with more than 2 toughness to play any creatures here until they blow up our Elesh Norn. There's a Timeless Witness, return a card from grave to hand, but the witness dies. They are going to pick up the Shark Typhoon. I guess that was their only option. Everything else got exiled. Oh my god, a Massacre Worm now. Hit for 4. I just drop the Massacre Worm so I can try to finish my opponent off as quickly as possible. Might as well play Birth of Melodis as well. Less likely to top deck a Plains now. And that Plains does produce black mana from Chromatic Lantern for Bloodchief's Thirst. They're going to hard cast the Shark Typhoon. They take 12 on board. Not quite lethal, but definitely a bold line from our opponent. Unfortunately, we don't have a way to punish them into lethal here. But if I kill 1 creature, if I kill 2 creatures with Massacre Worm on board, they'll lose 4 life. And just by playing spells, they're going to make creatures. So now they can't cast any spells that cost 2 or less, or it's going to make a 0/0 shark, and they'll take 2 damage. Yeah, they're just going to scoop them up there. Elesh Norn, Massacre Worm, nice big board state after the Wrath there. And that's kind of just the core example of how we want the deck to work. Just worked really well. Used a little bit of removal at the start, then board wiped when their board was better than ours, and then started playing some big stuff. So 1-0 as we head into Game 2. Here we are in Game 2 with some very fun synergies, the Grey Merchant and the Massacre Worm. If I can get these both on board together, my opponent's going to lose a lot of life, and I have the Inquisition of Kozilek in the opening hand, the best time to draw it. Our opponent has a bunch of lands and some flyers, a Steel Seraph. They only have 1 blue source, so they need double blue to get to this Djinn. I guess I get rid of the Channeler. The Djinn doesn't even have power until they draw any instants or sorceries, which they currently have none. So right now they have no way to cast the Djinn, and no instants or sorceries. So they're probably just playing a turn 3 Steel Seraph as a 3/3 flying lifelink, is how they're mostly going to use it. And if we just get 1 targeted removal spell, we deal with that and pretty much deal with everything they had in the opener. Luminarch Aspirant, that's a good draw. Or just keep buffing the Sleeper. I mean, I have nothing else to do with my mana. We're going to make it a 3/3 here, so they can't block, but they can attack into it. Probably should have just gotten the 1 extra damage, but holding this up threatens to have an instant for interaction, so they might keep playing their weaker card each turn. Like they might go Island Haughty Djinn instead of just playing the Steel Seraph to play around removal. That looks like not what's happening here. Alright, so no value gained from waiting on the Sleeper, so it would have been better to just buff it. Steel Seraph's going to be very nice here. They're going to buff the Aspirant and give it Lifelink or Vigilance or something. Probably Lifelink. Yep. Make the Sleeper a 3/3. May end up having to Day of Judgment here, which is not enjoyable. Probably just wait for the Djinn to come out and then I Day of Judgment. I have to hold back now so the aspirant doesn't hit me unless they give it flying, so at least they don't get any life here. This aspirant off the top was just really bad for us. So let them stack 2 creatures out here with the Seraph. And they're like both kind of snowballing effects that just get worse and worse for us the longer the game goes on. Like the Steel Seraph by itself wouldn't have been bad at all, but this aspirant really changed things for us. And we couldn't play around it because we Inquisitioned and just didn't see it. If I knew they had an aspirant, I could have just not played Sleeper and gotten an easy Day of Judgment here. Now they're holding up a counterspell, maybe? Well, now I have 2 Wraths, 3 Wraths, oh my god. Gix's Command isn't really a Wrath. Just kills their biggest creature. Suppose that is the one that it is the most okay if it gets countered. Because it only kills 1. Okay, so they top decked into Luminarch Aspirant plus Counterspell. Steel Seraph now a 5/5 lifelink. Still doing disgusting things. And I guess they just top decked multiple counterspells and we lose no matter what. I can cast 1 spell here, and whatever spell I cast is going to get countered. Well, if they don't have a counterspell, the best spell is going to be Farewell, because we exile the grave and make Haughty Djinn not good anymore. But Day of Judgment plays around more counterspells. It plays around Jwari Disruption for counter unless I pay 1. And I don't think I go Birth of Melodis into Day of Judgment because then I'm not playing around Jwari Disruption, so... Alright, play around Jwari Disruption, that's as much as I can do. No Jwari Disruption, okay. Guess I'm still in it. Again, that's why I didn't Birth of Melodis and Day of Judgment, because then if they had counter unless I pay 1, I lose. Not worth that risk. 4, 5, 6 mana. If I Birth of Melodis here, I don't get to play Massacre Worm, but Massacre Worm isn't even going to kill the Djinn. I have to 1-for-1 a board wipe right now. They have 3 unknown cards in hand. We're at 7. If I Massacre Worm now, next turn I gain a bunch of life off Grey Merchant, but then I might have to pull the trigger on a board wipe anyway. And then I just lose the creatures that I just played. Alright, well. One for one board wipe. Alright, that's a 1/1. That dies to a Massacre Worm. They get to pick up a land here, pick up an island. Play the island. Play an Urza, which does not die to a Massacre Worm. But Massacre Worm is still our best play. I can afford to Birth of Melodis and Massacre Worm here, so we'll do that. They only have 1 mana up. Although Urza does make their instants cost 1 less, so if they drew Jwari Disruption now, they could counter this Massacre Worm, technically. Sanctuary Warden, that is a horrifically bad time. I just make some spiders with a Lolth here. Try to just get as many black symbols on the board as possible. And if I make spiders with Lolth, I could double block the Sanctuary Warden, pop the shield counter. Can't really attack it again. They could trade Sanctuary Warden into the Massacre Worm. The shield counter, that is. So I don't even think I get an attack in here. Yeah, I think I'm on Lolth Palladium Mirror.
I will show you what happened. Aren't I the generous one?
Alright, let's pop that shield counter. Oh, I didn't have a double block. I don't know why I thought I had to double block. I thought that had Menace or something for some reason, just because my spiders did. That was such an easy single block. I guess double blocking means Lolth is active now, if I want to get 2 spiders again. But no, that was a whack double block. That was not the play. Coma. Okay, I guess I lose. Yeah, we had like 1 out to that, which was Farewell, which I already had to cast to survive. This card's just unstoppable. Get a 3/3 during each player's upkeep. They can use the 3/3 to give Coma indestructible, tap my stuff, lock down its abilities. All kinds of nonsense. I'm going to do a quick peek through the deck. Unless they play really, really poorly and I draw Saddle of Wreckage, there's literally nothing I can do about this, so I'm just going to move on. Game number 3. Here we are in game 3. Bunch of lands, Inquisition, Brushstroke, Gix's Command. Seems good to me. Inquisition in the opener, always a fan of that. I feel like this is the kind of card that's just going to put me on tilt every game, though, because it's going to be like last game where I like Inquisition them and then they just keep playing the perfect plays off the top. And then I'm like, oh my god, I literally know you just drew in all this. Well, they can't cast this Vampire without Lantern, but the Wayfinder can definitely get the white source for the Welcoming Vampire. So this is actually a rough choice. All 3 of these are pretty viable choices. No, Gix's Command, being able to destroy everything with 2 or less toughness. I think I'm actually going to take Chromatic Lantern. 2 or less power, I should say. Oh, we've got a Day of Judgment as well. Alright, Wayfinder, is that all non-land? Oh my god, Wayfinder just completely missed. Yeah, I'll drop the Brushstroke here. I'm going to lose my little Blood Artist thing, but it's never going to do all that much. I'm never going to have that many creatures on board. Just get this enchantment out of the way. Get it on board. Get our blood token ready. What are you scheming over there? They don't have the white source because I got rid of the Chromatic Lantern, so they just can't Vampire. Wow, they were going to hit a Lyra with still no white source. That was going to be really bad for them. I guess Cobra would help. Yeah, their mana's being real rude to them right now. Wow, yeah, they have the Balagad Recovery, the Chromatic Lantern. Kind of sucks for us. Not the kind of deck that can pressure them for having to take time off to do that. We're kind of just like, alright, you get that. Alright, well. 3 board wipes here. We're probably going to discard one of this blood, but... We can do that in their end step. Probably get rid of Gix's command. Don't get that much value from the counters, and it's the weakest of the wraths. Weakest of the board wipes. Karn, Scion of Urza. Alright, now that Chromatic Lantern's actually not looking that great for them because they did just top deck the white source. And I'll give them another white source, rather than give them an Oracle of Moldiah. I mean, I guess I want to give them creatures, but at the same time they're just going to use that land to play other creatures, and the Oracle is going to get them a lot of value. Blood Chief's Thirst. Well, I can blow up Karn then. None of my board wipes right now. Get rid of Planeswalkers. Get rid of the Karn before they can get their Oracle Moldiah back. Pass the turn. Welcoming Vampire. Welcome to the battlefield. Wayfinder coming in again for 1 damage. We draw into a Palladium Mirror. Massacre Worm is not going to kill this Welcoming Vampire, and I don't want to let them draw any extra cards, so let's just Day of Judgment and then still have a Settle in Massacre Worm. And there's the Chromatic Lantern, a land, and a Pelt Collector. Could sap its vitality if I need to. If they're threatening to make that bigger, I'll sap its vitality if they're going to get it to more than 3 toughness, or more than 2 toughness. But if it's going to stay at 2 toughness or less, I can just kill it with Massacre Worm later without spending a spell. Is this a bluff? Should I just call a bluff here, or... I'm kind of okay with Mirror dying, because, again, I just need to draw 1 more land to get the Massacre Worm, so... Call that bluff there. Yeah, I guess they were just trying to ninjutsu out this Liberator. They've got 1 card left in hand. Liberator's not going to die to Massacre Worm, so I'll kill it with Sap Vitality. And we'll play a Gifted Aetherborn here with the Sap Vitality bonus. Oh no, I forgot. I hate Alchemy so much. I hate that the different cards work different ways. There's the card that you enlist that gives you a boon to buff your next creature, and then there's the cards like Sap Vitality that buff a creature currently in your hand. It's too much. They have 0 cards in hand. Let me just... Oh, never mind. I can't cast the Massacre Worm without the Palladium Mirror untapped. Well, that's not good. That is definitely not good. If I play Elastil Core, it literally just dies, so pass. This would have been pretty horrific for me, whether or not I cast a Massacre Worm right now. Titan of Jesus Christ. Those are some really good draws. Okay, I'm 1 mana away from Farewell. So I think I chump block this turn and hope to hit Farewell. And if I don't hit Farewell mana, then next turn they can attack me with Titan of Industry, which means I get to exile the Titan with the Settle the Wreckage. Maybe I'm not even supposed to chump, but too late now. Arena's got some absolute jokes here. It's the only comes into play tapped land in the entire deck. Well, now I have to settle the wreckage and give my opponent 1,000,000 lands. instead of giving them nothing in return. So now our opponent is much more likely to top deck gas than we are. 2 toughness or less? Oh my goodness. Oh my damn. Oh my goodness, they go on ham. Well, Golos, you have to die, so I can't just spend the turn massacre worming. My brushstroke doesn't actually even do anything on board unless I draw into Grey Merchant, but there's no reason to exile it. Oh my god, please, just miss, opponent.
If you won't listen to nature, I'll speak on its behalf.
This is how drawing the tapped land pretty severely punishes us here, because we pulled 4 lands out of their deck. Maybe even 5, I think, actually. Should make it super likely they don't hit more lands. Oh my god. Yeah, top deck Vivian into draw 2 creatures. Cast Silverback Elder, cast an Elvish Mystic, blow up Brushstroke. They can make 4/4s off Vivian. Yeah, I'm just... Opponent is just built differently. I would scoop now, but I'll play it out. But I want the universe to know I understand that I have lost this game. Thanks. What? Always play it out. Oh my god, always play it out. They just hit 5 lands on top with the hideaway and then just get tilted? They're in the winning position, even if they hit nothing off fight rigging. What? Right, like they just make a 4/4 with Vivian. Yeah, -1 make a 4/4. They then have a 5/7, make the 4/4 a 5/5 with fight rigging. So their board state's going to be a 5/7, a 5/5, and a 4 loyalty Vivian. What am I going to do about that when I untap? Right? Like, they know I have no cards in hand. I have to draw to get out of this position. Otherwise, like, I untap and then I attack with a Massacre Worm and they just trade a 5/5 Rhino into it. Lose 3 life total. But then I'm down to literally a single 2/2 while they have a 5/7 and 4 more potential 4/4s throughout the game with Vivian. All right. I mean, I'll take it. I would have had to draw on astronomically well there to win that game, so I guess I just need to tell the universe that I understand that I'm losing the game a lot more often, and the universe will just completely flip things on me. 2-1. So we head into game 4. Alright, here we are in game 4 on the play. A definite keep here. We get to play our tapped land turn 1 immediately. Drop a Cold Steel Heart, and we're ramping. We are in the business. Can also draw a bunch of extra cards if my opponent isn't super aggro. Alright. Mayhaps they are. I don't even want to just hold up Lonely End instead of playing Cold Steel Heart. Probably not. 2 white sources, 2 black sources. I'll get another black source from this. Because I could play like a double black card like Arena and Lonely End in the same turn. Could happen. Oh my god, that's horrifying. Conclave Mentor adds an additional +1/+1 counter to their creatures every time they get one. So if they attack with both of these together, the Initiate trains up into 2 +1/+1 counters, which is enough to blow up my Cold Steel Heart. So I can't let these both stay on board. And I don't really want to settle my opponent turn 3 and give them 2 extra lands this early, because then the ramp is really important. So I kind of have to Lonely End here. One of these cards. And I'm so glad I chose black off Cold Steelheart because it allowed me to play the double black Aetherborn and still hold up the Lonely End. Alright, green-white pathway on white. Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, so now when they declare an attack, they also get a tapped attacking human. I think we let them declare the attack so that Aetherborn's going to get a free kill here. Kill that, Aetherborn blocks and kills the Mentor, and they just have a 1-1 and an Adeline. I guess we could have done that the other way around also. I don't think it mattered. I think Lolth is good enough here to protect herself behind 2 spiders. Yeah, I mean, I have an Aetherborn as well. They really can't attack with Adeline.
You require my aid. My will cannot be.
Could double Phyrexian Arena this game. Have a Phyrexian Arena and a Lolth on board. Draw 2, lose 2 every turn. That's fight with fire right there. That's living on the edge. History of Benalia. Those are 2/2s, so they die to Massacre Worm and they die to Elesh Norn, so I have more outs to those than most things. Seems good to me. Ooh, Sanguine Brushstroke is kind of nuts on this board. Still have a board wipe if I need it. Not setting up a Phyrexian Arena, but I kind of already have one thanks to Lolth. But Blood Artist is just going to make my Day of Judgment just sick nasty whenever it happens. Drain our opponent for like 8 life. Minimum. Lolth is also going to get 4 counters on her now as well. Toski, indestructible. That's not a fun keyword for me. That's a rude one. The unkillable squirrel. 4, 5, 6 mana total if I play Swamp. I won't have the mana to settle if I play the Arena, so I'm just gonna play Swamp.
Good minions.
Ooh, oh, Elesh Norn's so good against Toski. 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 mana away from Elesh Norn, just dismantling my opponent's hopes and dreams. Big, beefy knights now. Oh, Adeline's coming in. Everybody's coming in. Alright, well, it's settle time then, if everyone is coming in. Restoration Angel. I can save Adeline here. This is fine. Bunch of lands for my opponent. So Elesh Norn doesn't kill anything on their board, but Elesh Norn makes our attacks very scary. Pretty certain I just do that here. 2 blockers total. They can kill Lolth pretty easily. I should have drawn a card first, see if that changed things. Swamp does not change
My
things.
hatred lives.
I think I attack like this, and then they need removal to kill Lolth. This is also fine. They're down to 12. I guess if they... Alright, well, they're just going to scoop them up. That might have been a little bold, because if they had one removal spell to just get rid of Elishnorn, then I have a single 2-1 to block with. I trump the Angel, and then Adeline kills Lolth, and my board kind of is pretty low again. But they'd still be down to 12, so I think we'd still be in a decent spot that game. And apparently their hand was just very bad. So very lucky for us there. We are going to be now 3-1, I believe. Maybe just 2. Let's find out. Before I move on, we are 3-1, so we're guaranteed at least 3 wins here. Cannot be unhappy with that, as we're out after only 3 losses. So no matter what, at least as many wins as losses. See if we can keep it up here, maybe break even at 5 wins, get a solid run out of this one. Here we are now in game number 5. 3-land hand here. We're going to have to play Emiria Shattered Skyclave. A little low on black sources, because it's going to be hard to play this Massacre Worm. But Brushstroke we can use to like discard a plains, draw a swamp. Well, discard a plains to dig for a swamp at least. And we've got one cheap piece of interaction with Bloodchief's Thirst. If we make it to these high mana costs, we can try to get the big board wipe. Opponent is on double blue right now. This is going to be a really bad matchup for us if they're just like a blue-based control deck, because the strongest thing our deck can do... I'm actually going to play Brushstroke here to play around Jwari Disruption. Looks like they don't have it. The strongest thing our deck can do is like board wipe when our opponent's board's a lot bigger than ours, and that is not something a blue control deck cares about at all. And a blue control deck, because we have so few threats, is going to really easily just counter anything we play that matters. Luckily our opponent's like really stuck on mana here though. And if this arena resolves, we're going to be in the card advantage lead by a lot. If it sticks around. Alright, so they are blue-white. They have 3 mana up now. It's now even more likely that they can hit counter spells. I'm going to discard this plains looking for a swamp. Might be bold. Oh, okay, well, we'll get another plains out of the way. There's the swamp. Alright, we got swamp number 3, let's go. 5 mana, and we just play Palladium Mirror and Blood Artist, and one of them gets countered or removed. The Palladium Mirror it is, because I can't afford to pay for it. Again, I think this game's actually going a lot better than I thought it would when I saw the double blue start from our opponent. First of all, obviously they're mana screwed, but even more importantly, we've resolved their Phyrexian Arena, which is going to be really big in the matchup. Oh, Inquisition's actually not bad here. That being said, I could just play a Massacre Worm, but they probably just have like one removal spell for it by now anyway. We'll find out. I'm gonna Inquisition. Yikes, that's a Teferi and a Discover the formula there. You can play Teferi next turn after they play a land. I'm not that worried about Go Blink. You just discard a Day of Judgment and a Lonely End. Not that worried about Sweltering Suns either. Iteration is just good card draw for them. I guess I just get rid of Iteration, honestly. Wish I could hit Teferi with that. I can hit Teferi with Bloodchief's Thirster. Oh, I can't with Farewell. Farewell does not exile Planeswalkers. I guess that is how Merciless Eviction does have some positions where it's better. I think Merciless Eviction can exile Planeswalkers. Alright, well, don't like what I saw. Don't like what I saw at all. Here's Teferi. We know they didn't have a counterspell in hand, so unless they literally top deck a 2 mana or less counterspell off of their 2 draw steps, we can Bloodchief's Thirst Teferi. Ooh, a Grey Merchant? Just get rid of Teferi before anything else. They did not hit the cheap counterspell. Just gonna keep Phyrexian Arenaing all day long. Time for them to discover the formula here. So I'll just play a big old Massacre Worm. Or Lolth. Just want to up that Black Devotion for Grey Merchant. Lolth is like almost as much damage as Massacre Worm, and Massacre Worm's a lot deadlier if they play some creatures. Gives them a decent Sweltering Suns.
A gift.
Might draw that out. Alright, discovering the formula. Ooh, untapped Hollowed Fountain. Probably not ideal for me. Okay, Obliterating Bolt Lolth.
The light is insufferable.
They have stuff to do for all 7 mana. They have 6 more mana up. They're going to do that, then they're going to Sweltering Suns. We'll drain them 3 life. They're down to 13 now. Very much setting up for a Grey Merchant to get in reach here. And now they're holding 4 mana up still. For like potential counters, maybe a Dismiss counterspell, draw a card. I don't really have any bait. I have Wraths that do nothing, or I have the Grey Merchant I want to keep for last, or the Massacre Worm that I need to play before the Merchant, so it's literally just Massacre Worm. I guess I get to play Cold Steel Heart and then Massacre Worm. If they have another taxing counterspell, though, this is going to be brutal. Alright, no taxing counterspell. Got a loaded hand, though, so they probably have removal for this worm. Portal to Phyrexia. That definitely works. I'm going to have to exile all artifacts here, or that's going to beat me to a pulp. Exile all artifacts and graveyards. Then I have 4 mana left, so I play Birth of Melodis. I might mill myself out with this Phyrexian Arena because they're just going to keep playing Interaction. Oh. Oh. Field of the Dead and a Sanctuary Warden is the follow-up. Definitely not good for me. Oh, hey. Elesh Norn is just a direct counter to the Field of the Dead. Not the Sanctuary Warden, but still. Oh, do they have a counterspell now? No. Got a removal spell here. 2 for 1 me. Kill Elesh Norn and counter my removal? No. Okay. Things are shaping up okay. Oh, okay, board wipe. And get another zombie from the field. Yep. Field of the Dead, such a frustrating card. Giving inevitability without even having to play a non-land card. I have 11 cards left. I have a Gifted Aetherborn and an Evolved Sleeper and an Elast Ilkor. There's 3 cards left in this deck that add to my Black Devotion. They don't add an astronomical amount. I probably just play this Grey Merchant. Just make it as big as possible to threaten them. Big Merchant. Put them to 4 life, and this is going to be 5 power, so it would kill them in 1 hit. They played 1 discard spell, so I could play it around another, just holding on to the swamp. The rest of my spells are pretty cheap. My most expensive spell is Gix's Command at 5 mana. Although if I draw Gix's Command, I will be returning a creature from grave to hand and recasting that, so I already exiled my grave. Maybe I should not have done that. Ooh, Evolved Sleeper. I don't actually want to draw any cards with that, but I can still make it a scary threat that can try to kill them. Chump block. Here's Evolved Sleeper. Yeah, this can kill them in one attack. Just like the Grey Merchant. Braid. 3 damage to target. We're gonna have to 2-for-1 themselves to kill this now. I actually don't know if they still kill this. They might be 2-for-0ing themselves here. Oh no, they do. I'm 1 black source off. Yeah, if I had 1 more black source, I could stop that. But hey, they had to shoot it with both things, I guess. Nine cards in library. They're scrying 2. They can scry even more with the treasure map, but they're literally playing off the top. Both to the top? Ew. What is that about? Dang, they exiled it too, so Gix's command isn't even a good draw. I have like no active draws. I have 3 board wipes still, and then an Aetherborn and an Elas Ilkor. My initial assessment here was probably right. I just lose to control. I just don't have enough threats to get through all their answers. Elas Ilkor is really good here, though. Really good. They have to lose life every time they're killing our creatures now. Unless they kill Elas first. Oh, they kept a Thassa's intervention. They basically just tutor the library for whatever they need and put it in hand. Seems good. Seems powerful. Oh, they put 2 into their hand. Oh, that's even worse. All I ask is that if they kill our Grey Merchant of Asphodel, they don't exile it. They just put it into the graveyard. Another scry to the top. Field of the Dead gets a zombie. Displacer Kitten doesn't do anything right now. And that's it. Languish. Swamp. 5 cards left. One of them is Gix's command. The plan may be to Gix's command to pick up a Grey Merchant to recast it for the final few points of damage. Honestly, at this point, it's only 2 points of damage left to kill them. Gix's command is just the win condition here. We just want to draw into that. Attack in and see what happens here. Trade there and a chump block with the kitten. Okay, yeah, trade and chump block with the kitten. Take a damage from Elas and go to 3 life. Use the treasure map. They're going to scry, get a bunch of treasure tokens they can use to draw cards. They're going to impulse to look for a card, flicker the Displacer Kitten. I'm going to have 5 cards left in my deck. Recasting a Grey Merchant of Asphodel from grave is going to be lethal every time. So the plan's probably to Day of Judgment or Languish our own Grey Merchant later to get through all their stuff, and we hope they just play like real defensively and just make a bunch of 2/2s. Mightstone and Weakstone. Please just kill the Grey Merchant, because that doesn't exile it. Okay. So we're 100% just on top deck Gix's command. Pick up the Grey Merchant and cast it. They need to not top deck a counterspell. So they're scrying 2. So it's literally they need to put a counterspell on top, then sack a treasure to the cove and have the counterspell up. They get 1 draw here. This is their 1 shot. This needs to be a counterspell. Which it kind of seems like it is because it's auto passing through their turn. Oh my god, that'd be frustrating. Maybe we can get them to counter a board wipe. I could also just not draw the Gix's command. It could be in the literal bottom 2 cards. Cool. I have 0 cards in my library next turn, but I will have 1 final chance to recast a Grey Merchant. Alright, well, still try to bait out the counterspell. I'll go for a Languish here. We got rid of the counterspell. This doesn't say target player draws 2 cards, does it? No, just draw 2 cards. Cool. I can now Day of Judgment and hold up a Settle the Wreckage. Guess I'm not holding up Settle anymore, but they're not going to get 22 hasting power on me. I guess I don't have any more counterspell bait now. I probably should have waited on Day of Judgment till next turn. We know we're going to draw Gix's command, but I don't have the mana to cast Gix's command, Grey Merchant, and Day of Judgment here, I'm pretty sure. Right, because I've got, what, 10, 11... 10, 12, 13, 14, 15? I have exactly enough to try to cast Day of Judgment Gix's command here. Alright, well, if they had another counterspell here, they'd get us, and they might not have gotten us, because they might not have, they might have countered Day of Judgment here. I don't think they would, though, because now at this point we have a literal empty library, so they could just be like, alright, well. You're just gonna mill out anyway, so. I chose the less threatening alternate effect, so maybe they didn't realize they had to counter this, in case they had, like, specifically negate that only counters non-creatures. Wait, what is going on here? Oh my god! I was like, there's no way they're just speeding through all this and just like, yeah, that's good, that's fine. I was so suspicious. I'm like, there's no way they're doing this unless they have, like, Sphinx's Revelation in hand to just gain 1,000,000 anyway. Although I guess if they had Sphinx's Rev, they'd mill themselves. They're at 2 cards in library. Alright, well, Gix's Command Grey Merchant worked out. I didn't play it perfectly, but played it well enough there to get there in the end. A very long, very hard-fought game, and we are going to be 3-1 now, I believe. Really nice start with this black-white control. 4-1. Yeah, it's been a long one. It is a controlling deck, so definitely happy whatever happens from here on out. 4 wins, heading into game number 6. Game number 6, we don't have that second black source, which is a bit rough, but I have Sleeper and Lonely End guaranteed, and if I do draw the second black source, then the hand becomes great. Tapped Shatter Skull turn 1 from our opponent. Send in the Sleeper. I could hit for 2, but I can also hold up a Lonely End, which I will lose out on 1 point of damage to do, because red decks tend to be highly aggressive and could play a lot of really deadly 2-drops. Requisitioner is not really deadly. I think I'd rather just try to get to a point where I can languish a large board to deal with that. For the same reason, I don't actually think I'm playing Palladium Mirror here. Just gonna die to the Languish. That's gonna be pretty inevitable in the matchup. Take that damage, set up the Sleeper to be a 3/3 Death Toucher. That could start drawing us cards. Battle Cry Goblins, some more threats. And Sleeper threatening to become big enough to block Goblins, so they are going to blow it up here. Oh, Palladium Mirror doesn't even help me cast Languish, so I'm just going to pass. I specifically need a black source. If I let them get this attack off, they get another creature. Unfortunate. This plays poorly into my board wipe, because now if I wipe the board, I have spent a removal spell that I didn't need to. But I can't just like guarantee that I'm hitting a swamp here, and looks like it's probably a good thing I did that. Because we were going to take another hit here. I would have taken 7 damage because they get a goblin. 7 damage minimum. Another big hit this turn. Yeah, that played well for us. I'll just play the plains. Still don't think I'm playing Palladium Mirror. There's no way I'm getting to triple black for Massacre Worm. That's the only card that needs more colorless mana right now. So we're still in that Languish plan. Karn. What kind of Boros deck is this? This is like Boros aggro, but then they're playing the really good just late game value cards of Treasure Map and Karn, and that's gonna get us pretty hard here. We're like really good against the hyper aggro, very focused Boros decks, but this is like Boros mid-range. Treasure Map and Karn gonna be the most important cards in this matchup here. Also, Swamp number 2 gonna be a pretty important one.
Everything is coming together.
Sarah Paragon, they get to cast stuff from their grave. They can't afford to yet. Well, Day of Judgment it is. And we cannot beat a Chandra Awakened Inferno. This is the card just designed to absolutely destroy control decks with the +2 ability. We have pretty much no way to win the long game now. For sure. Our opponent's deck has just got too much like mid-rangey value stuff between Karn, Treasure Map, Chandra. If they were just like a dump your hand out, aggro out real quick, would probably still be dead, because I probably would have died before I drew the Day of Judgment, but that's the matchup we're looking to get in. We just did not draw super well there. 4 and 2, heading into game number 7. Here we are on the play for game number 7, Snap Keep. 3 black sources in the hand, that's enough for any black card in the whole deck. Turn 2 Birth of Melodis on the play is going to be great. Turn 1 Duress from our opponent. You hate to see it. You absolutely hate to see it. Day of Judgment is gone. That means my opponent is probably planning on playing a lot of creatures, which is good for me, because we have 4 more board wipes in here. Drop this Phyrexian Arena. Opponent is on blue-black. They're going to cast a Gix. 0/4 Defender is going to be doing some work against that. And there's another board wipe. Farewell for the future. Null Priest of Oblivion, 2/1 Menace Lifelink. Sure. Land draw, and then another draw. Massacre Worm and Blood Chiefs. There's both good draws. Might Blood Chiefs Thirst the Gix here. And I do have the board wipe in hand if my opponent goes wide, but if I don't kill the Gix, they're going to draw a card. Because I'm going to play Grey Merchant and have 2 blockers against 1 regular attacker and 1 menace attacker, which means they'll guaranteed get something in. I think I do want to try to just counter my opponent's card draw. Kill the Gix. It does work. Gix is a goner. Circuit Mender. 3 toughness, so it survives Massacre Worm, but if Massacre Worm resolves, it will kill Null Priest of Oblivion. My opponent could have Disdainful Stroke here. Counter a spell that costs 4 more, but they do not have that, so Massacre Worm's going to come down and do some great things for us. Kill the Null Priest, do 2 to our opponent, put a big body on the board. Opponent does have a Noxious Gearhulk to follow it up. The Circuit Mender draws them a card no matter where it ends up, right? Yeah, when it leaves the battlefield, so I could Farewell, get rid of both creatures. Could also Gix's command, pick up the Massacre Worm and kill the Gearhulk. I feel like I'd like to save Gix's command till I can pick up 2 things with it to be a little spicier. So I might just be on the Farewell game plan here, and then I still have Settle the Wreckage to deal with stuff. Yeah, let's Farewell. All creatures and artifacts. Definitely not all graveyards. I gotta say, Phyrexian Arena has been incredible in this deck. It's been tremendously important. Displacer Kitten Acquisitions Expert. Please don't have an additional non-creature spell to flicker that thing. Okay, they don't. So I can get a really nice Gix's command here. Draw a creature power 2 less, return 2 creatures. And I get full value because I just discarded Palladium Mirror, which I can cast. That worked out quite well for me. Opponent having a little discard spell there, so I could not feel bad about losing any value there. Now they've got 1 card in their hand. I'm gonna draw enough cards this game. I'm not gonna want to cycle this thing, so I'm just gonna Massacre Worm on an empty board, I think. Just my biggest threat. Get beaten down. Force them to draw well or die quickly. Well, there's their own Gix's command. That's going to kill our Massacre Worm and return their best 2 creatures. They're going to choose Gix himself and Acquisitions Expert. It's a very fun, just know you acquisitions expert coming down here. Here's a swamp for you. Ooh, a Myria's Call. 2 4/4 flyers? Don't mind if I do. Why not? That is definitely the most impactful spell I can cast right now. And I get to play a Gifted Aetherborn, and then I get to sap Gix's Vitality. Ether Channeler, there goes an angel. A pretty good draw there. Bounce an angel out of existence with the enter the battlefield effect. Alright. Sap Gix's Vitality. Make an Evolved Sleeper bigger. Play the Evolved Sleeper to up the Black Devotion. Play the Grey Merchant to drain a bunch of life from my opponent so I don't die to my arena. Beat down to kill them quite quickly here. They're down to 10, playing off of the top, and we've got quite the board. We can double evolve the sleeper. Land for us. Attack with everybody again. Bounce the flyer. They can cast a borrower that can't block. Because it can only block flyers. Trump the sleeper, take 4 is basically their only option. So that is what they do. Then we just pass the turn, dump a bunch of mana into drawing a bunch of cards with sleeper. Alright, they're going to scoop them up. Whatever they drew was not an out to this board state, and we are now going to be 5 wins in, guaranteeing that we're leaving with as much gold as we entered with, and just some bonus random rare rewards. Should be spicy for us. And a dominating vampire from just a random win reward. So really nice run today. See if we can keep it up. Every game could be our last here though. 2 losses in the bag. If we get 1 more, we're out of it. But if we can get 2 more wins, we could get a full 7-win run. We'll see what happens heading into round number 8. Here we are on the play. No white source is a little sketchy, but I have Lonely End for a single targeted removal and a Languish for a board wipe, so I'm going to keep it. We have been punished by our mana once before. We could get punished by our mana this game. We'll see what happens. Uh-oh. Red's a scary color. I think this is a decent hand against red, though. Lonely End and Languish being the big cards. Red-black, usually real aggressive, so interesting, but also kind of nice to see them not play anything by turn 3. But that is a Phoenix of Ash on turn 3, and that card is nuts against us. Because even if I board wipe it, it can come back from the grave, so unless I exile it, I guess I have a Settle the Wreckage to do so. But I think I just Lonely End this thing to deal with it for quite some time. Ooh, Inquisition's probably good in this matchup. Oh my god. Got the big 6-mana Chandra, the big Ox, Pillar of Flame, Chainwhirler, Impulse, all kinds of burn to kill my Elas. Legomos is actually just scarier than Chainwhirler right now because they don't have the 3rd red source. They don't have enough mana for the Ox or the Chandra, and I can't make them discard those anyway, even if they did have enough mana. So let's play Elas here, take one of these burn spells out of their hand, and hopefully they just stumble on mana a bit here. Give us time to try to make it to Massacre Worm mana. They're going to Pillar Flame the Elas. Pass turn, alright, no land that turn, but no land for us as well. There's the mountain. Brutal. Chain Whirler resolves now, and they're only 1 mana away from Ox. Whoa. They don't play Chain Whirler. Alright, well. Maybe they're just getting greedy, trying to get not played until they can do 1 damage to everything. Don't play it until I have 1 toughness stuff. Pretty fine with me, though. I can just sit here and not take an extra 3 damage every turn. I'm all for it. Gix's command doesn't really do anything right now, but will be a powerful card later. Chandra's just so good against us. This is brutal. If Chandra resolves, we just lose. And they're only 1 mana away now. Lost to Chandra once before today. I'm ready to do it again. And there she is. Just inevitability that I can't deal with because they're emblems.
Let's get toasty.
Now they can just minus Chandra to kill this anyway. I have literally no other play to make because my entire hand is a board wipe. It was rough. We were against like Boros aggro that just ended up like mid-ranging us out of the game, and now Rakdos aggro that's ending up mid-ranging us out of the game. With just massive control deck finishers like Chandra, or massive ramp deck finishers like Chandra, Awakened Inferno. This is brutal. Yeah, I mean, I'm not winning this game. I'm gonna scoop them up there. We are gonna be 5-3 to end it off. Chandra just gets to keep dancing around willy-nilly. But pretty good run overall. We get 4,000 gold and 3 cards out of this. We get a 5-win run, a nice positive win rate there. This deck was solid. It wasn't great. It was a little bit low on win conditions, as we saw in the more controlling matchups. And some of our matchups there were just really bad. Like, Chandra's just a brutal card against any kind of control deck, be it the white-black multiple wraths effect control deck, be it the blue counterspell-based control decks, because she can't even be countered. Any deck that's trying to close out the game in like a long and grindy fashion is going to have a really rough time against that Chandra, because even if you can kill that Chandra within the first 2 turns, the first few turns of her being around, you've got a pretty quick clock on you, taking 2 or 3 damage every single turn for the rest of the game. And if you can't, she's just like an endless stack of removal spells alongside the inevitability of just burning you to death. So biggest over and underperformers today are definitely Chandra, Awakened Inferno, massive overperformer, demolishing us in 2 out of 3 of our losses. As for over and underperformers in the deck, not too much to say. Sanguine Brushstroke was pretty bad in here because our creature count's so low. But pretty much everything else got to be used to relatively powerful effect. Vault Sleeper was also kind of bad. Feels like I just dumped a lot of mana into it and didn't do a lot most of the time. Everything else, though, did its job pretty well. So, relatively happy with the deck. 5-3 run, not bad at all. We'll take it, but that is going to end today's draft and end today's video. As always, if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more like it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. We'll be back for just a couple more Arena Cube drafts by the end of the year. It is almost January. It's almost a brand new year where got all kinds of exciting stuff coming to Magic Arena and coming to the YouTube channel. So, yeah. Other than that, just exciting times, turn of the year, all that stuff. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.